Hi, my name is Matt Mulcahy. I'm the Director of Business Development at ProSource, and today I wanted to touch on an emerging trend that we're seeing in the space, which are the insurance companies requiring small and mid-market companies to really be strict about their adherence to specific compliance frameworks. Today, I wanted to just look at a recent assessment that we helped the customer complete and maybe touch on some of the high points that we see are becoming challenges and contention points with some of our customers. What we're looking at right now is a standard security assessment. We do a few of these a week. They're consistently being sent over to us to update and make sure that any changes or compliance framework updates are being captured and cataloged and sent back to the risk assessment agency. So as you can see, this is very large. There's multiple tabs at the bottom going all the way to Z. And it can be quite overwhelming for customers to fill this out themselves. So that's generally where we come in. We can help on a one-off basis, but a lot of the times we're already doing managed IT for these firms, and we're helping them move towards this compliance state. So in this instance, they're looking for ISO 27002. What we find with these auditing agencies is generally there's a framework they're looking for, but if you're already working towards compliance under another framework, it might be NIST, it might be HIPAA, that generally can suffice in these instances. So they're asking very explicit questions here, looking for very specific things that obviously map to controls within the ISO framework, but what we see is if you're already doing something similar and it's mapped to controls within another framework, that generally satisfies a lot of what these third parties are looking for. So just because they're asking the question doesn't mean you may need to have that specific thing. But if you can prove that you are working towards compliance in another framework and might not map explicitly to what they're looking for, that'll generally satisfy whatever control they're looking for. So, for this one, they're looking at, is there a documented process to identify and assess regulatory changes that could significantly affect the delivery of products and services? So really, that's making sure that you have someone on your team that is constantly looking at those changes. So in the HIPAA framework, you have to have a named compliance officer. So this is an instance where, they may be looking for something within ISO, and this actually doesn't even map. So this is a standalone question. But, if you go back to them and say, hey, we're doing this under HIPAA by having a named compliance officer that's reading all the HHS, Health and Human Services updates that are being published on a monthly basis. So working through these can be very exhausting and overwhelming, especially if you have nothing in place. But generally, some people have a lot of these in place already, and they're not documented well. So making sure that you work towards a state where not only do you have the controls in place, but you have the documentation to back it. And a lot of these questions here, I'm sure I can find one very quickly. A lot of these questions here will refer to documentation. So, does the risk governance plan include risk management policies, procedures, and internal controls? So it's not enough just to have the internal controls. You need to have the associated documentation. And what we always say is, policies drive the practices. So the policies generally get developed first, they get approved, and then you roll out the technology changes. That's generally kind of the process we see in IT change management. So these can be very gigantic. I'm not going to go over every single tab, but what we're seeing is that independent insurance agencies are pushing these down to the smaller businesses and mid-market businesses. And, the traditional defense was, we're too small for this, we can't afford this. And that just doesn't fly in this day and age. Everyone's a target from a hacking standpoint. It doesn't matter how big or small you are. You can be monetized with ransomware, and then that has downstream implications on the insurance payers and the huge payouts that they have to stomach, and why we're seeing such a push to make sure that everyone that they're insuring has very robust cybersecurity and controls. So if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me, and I'm happy to talk about this at any time. Just wanted to really touch on a recent assessment that we got and show, that everyone is really in scope for having robust cybersecurity in this day and age. There's no excuse not to, and you have to have it at every growth stage within your business's path as they go forward. Once again, my name is Matt from ProSource. We're trying to post about weekly now. Give us a follow if you have any interest in cybersecurity, IT, or compliance. And thanks for watching and have a great day.